Imagine a house divided not by war or ideology but by a shared secret. Two sisters living side by side yet bound by an unthinkable arrangement. In the genteel parlors of Alabama, whispers were carefully masked by the rustle of silk skirts. Sarah and Mary, identical in face but perhaps not in soul. They moved through their world with a practiced grace, a performance for their neighbors. Behind the white pillars and manicured gardens a different truth festered. A man lived on their property, a person they legally owned. He was not assigned to one sister or the other but to both. A shared resource like a well or a carriage. This simple, horrifying fact would unravel their carefully constructed world. The air in their home grew thick with unspoken tensions. Meals were eaten in silence, heavy with a strange complicity. They shared everything: the land, the house, the silver, and now a human life. Their relationship a delicate balance of sisterly affection and bitter rivalry. Each glance across the dinner table carried a weight of unasked questions. Who would need his labor today? Who would give the orders? The mundane logistics of ownership became a twisted dance. He was a constant presence, a living reminder of their power and their sin. The sisters perhaps believed this was just the way of their world. They were simply managing an inheritance. But humanity has a way of breaking through even the most rigid systems. Proximity breeds familiarity, and familiarity can breed something else entirely. A dangerous intimacy bloomed in the shadow of that oppressive institution. A look held for a moment too long. A conversation that strayed from commands to curiosities. The heart does not always obey the rules of society. In the quiet of the Alabama nights, secrets began to stir. The wall between master and slave began to show hairline fractures. He was a man, they saw him every day. They saw his strength, his quiet dignity, his humanity. And he saw them in all their complexity, their loneliness, their fragility. This was not a story of romance but one of profound imbalance and tragic connection. Power can corrupt, but it can also create strange, desperate dependencies. The sisters, isolated on their property, had only each other and the man they owned. The dynamic was a volatile mix of authority and vulnerability. Then came the slow dawning of a terrifying reality. For Sarah it was a wave of nausea in the morning. For Mary a missed cycle and a creeping dread. The signs were unmistakable, the body's quiet rebellion. They had shared everything and now they shared this. Two bellies beginning to swell beneath their corsets. Two futures hurtling toward a single scandal. The very thing that was meant to prove their purity and status now revealed their deepest transgression. The slave who was meant to be invisible had become the central figure in their lives. His child would now live under their roof, a permanent testament to this broken arrangement. The whispers in the town grew from a murmur to a roar. The sisters who were once the epitome of Southern womanhood were now pariahs. Their porcelain complexions could not hide the truth their condition told. They were trapped not by chains but by the consequences of their own actions. The Bible on their parlor table condemned them even as they sought its comfort. They had to face their family, their church, their community. The judgment in their neighbors' eyes was a fire they could not escape. This is more than a historical curiosity, it is a stark parable. It speaks to the corruption of absolute power and the human need for connection. It shows how systems of oppression ultimately dehumanize everyone involved. The master is never free while the slave is in chains. The sisters, in seeking to own another person, found themselves owned by their own desires and their society's expectations. Their pregnancy was not just a personal failure but the failure of an entire way of life. It was the institution of slavery revealing its rotten core. It created impossible situations and broken people. This story forces us to look at the complicated, painful, and often silenced narratives of our past. It asks us to consider the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable hardship. What of the man at the center of this storm? His story, his pain, his survival is the heartbeat of this history. And what of the children born from this entanglement? Their lives would be a lifelong negotiation of identity and belonging. Today we unpack this not to sensationalize but to understand. To see the cracks in the foundations of our history. To recognize that the past is not a simple story of good and evil but a complex tapestry of flawed humanity. So let us step into that divided house. Let us feel the weight of the silence between two sisters. Let us witness the moment their shared secret became a visible, inescapable truth. And may we learn from the wreckage they left behind.